Coverage of the death of Olive Cook highlighted the stress that unsolicited begging letters from charities can have.
Since then, many more people have come forward to say that they feel their generosity is being taken advantage of and that it's time for tougher regulation about what can be sent to us via the post.
Well, here on This Morning, we think it's time to take a bit of a stand. We're joined now by our consumer expert, Alice Beer. Jenny Phelps, the recipient of enough charity letters to cover her walls, and that's exactly what we've done in here. Philip Mansborough from the International Fund for Animal Welfare, one of the charities to contact Jenny, and Alistair McLean from the Fundraising Standards Board, one of the bodies designed to regulate the fundraising activities of the charities. Alice, let's start with you first of all. I mean, this sort of publicity cannot be doing the charities any good. It must be putting people off from giving money if you are going to be bombarded with this sort of nonsense.
Unfortunately, Philip, the people that I feel the charities are targeting are not put off from giving any money. They just feel that they have to give more. They are feeling put upon, they are feeling targeted, but they are a generous group of people. And the reason why people like Jenny are being targeted is because A, she's over 50, and B, she's generous. And C, if you like, she's not on one list, she's on many, many lists.
And so how can you stop it?
There's lots of practical ways you can actually stop it. Again, Jenny is a group of people who don't actually go out and do things to stop mail coming. Bless you,
right.
You know, you've known for a month how to stop the mail coming and you haven't done it yet, which just is indicative of this group of people. So we need to change, here on This Morning, we need to change the system that is in place to protect people like Jenny.
How did it start, Jenny?
Well, I set up direct debits 3-4 years ago. I increased some of the charity letters that were coming, and pre-Christmas, I had about a dozen things came through the post, like calendars, charity cards and things like that, gifts, nail file sets and things like that. And I thought, well, I will donate to a dozen before Christmas. And with the gifts that are sent, I thought I'm sort of like paying for them. And I sent the money to them. And then since then, the letters have increased.
And they asked you to increase your direct debit?
Yeah, no, they've been quite good. I4 especially, they did phone once a year and they say, can you increase? I think I did just the once, but then within my limitations, I say that's what I can afford.
So why don't you just bin them?
Yeah. That's what everybody tells me. But the thing is, you see, some of the causes are quite genuine. I mean, like, you know, will you save a child's eyesight by sending £12 to remove a cataracts and things like that? And then it gets you, you think, OK, I will, and then I've made a child see.
That's what they're intended to do. They're intended. It is a business. A charity is a business. Of course, I don't forget for any moment the incredible work they do both here and overseas.
But
they are in competition with each other. They want a limited amount of money that is the pool of the people who are prepared to give.
And so they're sending her gifts. Babies' booties.
I was going to
little
say,
children's caps.
That's bribery, isn't it?
People have...
Yes, I
it's
feel
immoral and it is bribery.
You get like a baby blanket and it says, oh, will you please return this to us? This will help keep a baby warm in Africa or something. I thought, well, why are you sending it to me? You know, and how many other thousands of people are getting these?
What is the point in that then? They send you a baby blanket for you to send back?
Yes, and this week I had a pair of baby socks. Please send these baby socks back with your donation.
Even if she didn't send the donation, just by sending it back, she has shown that she is open to a relationship with that charity, and they are then free to go on and send her list or swap her list or sell her name, put it on all sorts of lists.
And that's the next point I want to make, because once you have been shown to be open to be generous, then you are then sold on, the information is sold on, given, swapped with other charities.
It can be given, swapped or sold even if you're not generous. But yes, that enters you into another tier of vulnerability, I'm afraid.
Alistair, let me come to you on that, because how is that allowed? Why should it be allowed? You're being generous to one charity, why do you have to be generous to 10?
Look, the charities are allowed, charities are allowed to share data, providing they've got permission from the supporter, for the donor. So somewhere along the line, Jenny, you will have probably ticked the box and you've confirmed that you're happy for your data to be shared. Now, that's one of the recommendations we made in our report. We felt there are much, much stricter rules around data sharing, data selling and data exchange.
Is it always tick the box to opt in, or do you, on many occasions, tick a box to opt out?
That's a good point. There's been a mixture, and there's an element of confusion around opting in and opting out. One of the recommendations we made, pardon me, one of the recommendations we made was to make it absolutely crystal clear that charities should put on all marketing communications opting out.
So you then said she may have ticked a box. She may not have ticked a box.
I do actually think I did.
I mean,
The box needs to be bigger.
You're in charge of regulating this industry. I mean, I have to say, in light of what has happened recently, you're really not doing a very good job.
Well, it is self-regulation. It's regulation
So what's
against...
the point of view, then?
Well, the point is that we regulate the code of practice, which is a detailed code of practice, against a very high standard. It's above the legal minimum. It's against a very high standard of what charities are meant to do. And there's no doubt that based on the feedback we've had from the public following the death of Olive Cook, there's been a huge amount of complaints that have reached to us. We've written this report. We've made various recommendations to get code changes, and those are currently being implemented.
But we actually got in touch with Rob Wilson, who's the Minister for Civil Society. His office have told us that he's not available to come on the programme today. We asked for a statement and we didn't get one. So how closely are you working with the government? He certainly wasn't prepared to come here today.
Rob Wilson has written to us and written to the other two bodies who are involved in self-regulation and basically asked us to strengthen the code. There have been a large number of recommendations made. A number of them have already been accepted and embraced by the sector, and there's more to come. There's going to be a lot of changes.
So how will things change? How do you want to see things change?
Well, I'm absolutely convinced that, sadly, Olive Cook's death is a bit of a watershed for the sector. There's going to be quite a significant change to the way in which charities reach out to the public. We put in recommendations about the frequency of asks. We put in recommendations about issues of consent. So the point that Jenny's just mentioned about...
Alistair, can I just mention that these important points are fantastic, and for the charities that you represent, that is great. This organisation that Alistair represents, it represents 1% of UK charities who have signed up to these standards. So many of these pieces of paper that we see wallpapered here, they're from organisations who are not signed up to these standards. They're from organisations who are allowed in this country to keep targeting elderly people, keep sending their names to other people without any kind of restrictions, because we have no opt-out, we have no opt-in system. We passively, our names are just sold anywhere and everywhere until we get the system changed.
You're representing 1%. You are utterly toothless.
No, that's not true. We are representing less than 1% of the number of registered charities in Britain, but they do the overwhelming majority of fundraising. The very large charities do a huge amount of fundraising. We represent over 50% of all voluntary funds raised in Britain. So many of the charities, I haven't had a chance to look at these letters, but many of the charities may well be members, and we would follow up complaints about them.
Philip, you're from the International Fund for Animal Welfare. You passed on Jenny details on 4 occasions, I think, didn't you?
We did, yes.
How do you feel about that?
I'm disappointed that Jenny was disappointed because we didn't know that she didn't want us to do that, so therefore she hadn't opted out.
Are you opt in or opt out?
She would have needed to opt out.
All right, so she didn't know that you were going to pass it on?
Potentially not.
No, so you didn't tell her that you were going to pass it on?
It's a passive agreement, isn't it?
Oh, no, there would have been the opt-in. Sorry, there would have been the opt-out.
If she'd read it. When she's getting all of this, so she's going to find the box to opt out?
Yes, she would need to. Yes, you would need to take.
How do you think that makes your charity look? And once again, I reiterate, this is no bearing on the incredible work that you do here and overseas. But how do you think it makes your charity look?
Well, I think it's disappointing if people felt that they were unaware that we were going to share their information. We do it
because you didn't tell them.
Oh no,
Clearly.
we definitely did tell them.
Clearly,
we definitely would have told them.
But it's a small print, isn't it? I mean, there's an argument here, especially for the older generation who are incredibly generous, that you don't always read the small print. None of us read the small print. It should be a big box in bold letters. Do you want us to pass your information on? No.
I mean, we're looking forward to the recommendations from Alistair and the FRSP, and whatever they recommend, we'll make those changes. We follow the FRSP standards to the letter, and Jenny herself, she's one of our valued supporters. She's been supporting us for many years, and even Jenny herself doesn't particularly have a problem with our communications, and we've
Do you have a problem with them passing your information on to other charities?
You don't have to be nice.
She's so nice. She's so nice. Can I tell you,
Nice
Philip,
and generous.
RNLI would never pass on, swap, sell or rent your name because they feel their people, their supporters don't like it.
And I'm sure
so
there
they
are
don't
other
do
charities
it.
as well.
So
We're
there's
trying
an
to find
integrity.
out who is and who isn't. I'm going to ask you again. Just take the nice hat off for just a second, because you're so lovely and so generous. Are you happy with them passing on your details 4 times?
If it was to other similar charities that help animals like you do, yeah, I wouldn't object to that. If it was just a few, fair enough.
Yeah, and it was on 4 occasions.
Yeah,
since
but I
you've been
mean, for
supporting
instance,
us.
I get now, like say from Africa, so many children Children's Africa, starving children, and World Villages, also, I don't want to
Because
name
you've
names.
given to a children's charity once.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
I mean, they put 12p on the top of the envelope. Will you send this 12p back with your donation? I've got 6 lots of 12p's. You know, I put them in another charity box.
How do you think this affects the good standing, the nature, the image of charities in this country?
I think it will be a real shame if it means that less people are given to charities. At the end of the day, the supporters are the absolute lifeblood of charities. We can't do anything. We can do none of our animal welfare without the kind supporters like Jenny. So if it stops people giving, then it does have an effect. It will have an effect for us on animal welfare. I mean, for us, the supporter is king. We listen to their every demand. If any of them call us up, within a second, if they said, we don't want mail-ins, or we don't want this kind of mail-in, or we don't want phone calls, within a second, the box would be ticked, and that would be the end to it. We always reach out. As soon as we heard that Jenny was disappointed, we reached out. I contacted her directly and gave her all the options available to her.
Well,
it's a partnership at the end of the day.
From our point of view, to your charity, thank you for fronting up today.
Well done, yeah.
Thank you.
It's,
Very brave.
you know, I really appreciate you doing
Yeah.
it. Rob Wilson, the Minister for Civil Society, didn't, but we thank
Yes, where are you,
for,
Rob?
for doing that. Rob, we'll put a seat down there for you. If you want to come in at any stage, you have an open invitation to come in and chat, because we're not going to leave this alone. We are going to continue with this story, and thank you very much indeed, all of you, for coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Still to come, music superstar Mark Ronson joins us after stealing the show at Glastonbury, so we're back after the break. Welcome back. Just looking at your comments on charities. Simon says, we get charity letters all the time for the lady who used to live at our house. We've tried time and time again to stop them, but with no joy.
Lucy says charities are amazing and do amazing things, but it should be an individual choice to join. I really don't appreciate when they call on my door at 8 o'clock at night.
And Marie says, I was paying £10 a month to a charity, they then phoned and asked if I could do £20, which put me off giving to them altogether. Yvonne says the opt-out button is usually way down at the bottom. Blink and you would miss it. It should be much bigger and at the top. Thank you for those.
Absolutely.
Now, another subject. The tragic events in Tunisia at the weekend have again focused attention on the threat of extremism in Britain. Only yesterday,